What does gutsy mean to you, my friend?
Ooh, for me, gutsy means being fearless. Gutsy means acknowledging that fear, staring it in the face, and doing it anyways. And so being gutsy means just being fearless in what you do, fearless about pursuing your goals, and fearless about showing up for yourself and others.
Welcome to the Gutsy Podcast, the show where you learn how to own what you actually want and shift the mind junk that's been holding you back. I'm Laura Ora, keynote speaker, coach, and your guide to help you get clarity, build confidence, and make the gutsy moves that change your life. Each week, I'm going to help you simplify things by teaching you how to get out of your head while stepping into action. This way you can achieve all those life shifts that you've been overthinking. Your desire, that drives you. But gutsy, that's what gets it done. A lot of women carry the title of leader at work, in their communities and even in their families, but deep down, they don't always feel like leaders. I've seen so many women wrestle with self-doubt, owning their voice, and the weight of the authority that comes with leadership. In today's episode, we're going to discuss why it feels so uncomfortable to own that role in the first place and what's really holding women back from embracing their identity as leaders. Not to mention the positivity ripple effect that it has on their teams, their organizations, their communities, and the people around them. I wanted to bring in a leadership expert for this. So today we have Shadae Paul, who is the president and CEO of Cornerstone for Women Leaders, which is a nonprofit dedicated to faith-based leadership training. She has a 15-year career in global health spanning 5 continents and has also served as the president of the Washington County Commission for Women. This represents more than 76,000 women across 9 municipalities. Did I mention she holds a dual master's degree in both public health and public administration from the University of Washington and has a BA from the University of Maryland? This girl knows her stuff. Listen, if you have been told that you're the leader, but you're always pointing to somebody else in the room that has a bigger title or a higher pay grade, this episode is going to help you own your leadership role and see the positive impact that it really has. And let's not forget perfectionism. God, do you struggle? Listen, I'm just going to stop talking because all of this is in today's episode. Let's get into it. Shadae, my friend, welcome to the Gutsy Podcast.
Hello, Laura. Thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely. I'm a little obsessed with this topic that we're going to dig into today about owning yourself as a leader because my goodness, it's just such a common thing to be like, oh no, that's not me, or point to somebody else, or you just keep your voice quiet. And we're going to help these women shift this today. So I'm stoked to get into this. I first have to wonder what your leadership path and journey has been like. Like, did you struggle with this in the beginning? Do you still struggle with this? Like, bring me up to speed on like your journey and what brought you to where you are right now.
Yeah, well, thank you so much for having me on your podcast. I first want to, share gratitude with you for even having me on to speak to your audience. I've been a faraway fan for a very long time, and I just love seeing how you constantly encourage and equip and support um, your audience, women who really want to learn how to grow and develop and just do this hard thing called life a lot better. So I just want
Oh,
to give you your flowers as well because the space that you've created for women to come together and learn is really special and really unique and powerful. Something powerful happens when women come together to share their stories and learn together.
I couldn't agree more. Thank you for that. That was really beautiful. Thank you.
Of course, of course. So when it comes to my personal background related to the topic, this is something I have struggled with in recent years, not so much earlier on in life, but in the process of starting a new nonprofit organization and launching it and getting it off the ground and getting traction. It's something that I have come to struggle with, but interestingly enough, it's not something I started out struggling with. So that's a whole conversation in and of itself, like how sometimes our confidence or our sense of um, self-esteem can kind of wax and wane depending on what challenges we're taking on in life. Growing up, I was always very confident in myself and my role as a leader. It's something that was reinforced in my family of origin, both on my paternal and maternal side. There are women who have taken on leadership roles in their careers and in their families. And so with my siblings and I, my parents always told us, you're the head and not the tail. You're supposed to be leading and not following. And so it's something I just kind of had instilled in me from a very young age. So as I grew up and as I did sports or academics, um, I always had that innate sense of self-confidence. And it wasn't, as I said, until now later on in my career and in my life where I'm in a stage where I'm starting a new organization and it's a leadership organization. And so that really does allow me to um, reconfigure my own identity as a leader and establish it on, yes, my family and my lineage, but also owning that title for myself and defining it for myself, which is what I think a lot of women sometimes find helpful. How do we take this big title called leadership and the authority that comes with it and personalize it? How do we make it fit us, our personality, our purpose, our goals, so we don't feel like we're wearing someone else's armor and we don't feel like we're walking in someone else's shoes and we're trying to be something we're not? How can we really embrace our identity as a leader in an authentic and powerful way?
Absolutely. I love that. And I'm actually going to come back to that question later on because how do we take this kind of framework or this expectation and still be ourselves within it?
Right.
I think that's a big question. I am kind of curious though. You said, growing up as a leader, it was just second nature, it's just who you were, it was instilled in you, it was modeled to you. But you said now starting your nonprofit, maybe you can tell us a little bit about what your nonprofit is and what has changed. Like, where are you experiencing some of that hesitation, and like, is your confidence kind of waxing and waning, or what's causing all this?
Yeah, it is interesting. So my nonprofit is called Cornerstone for Women Leaders. We're based in Hagerstown, Maryland. So that's Western Maryland. And we are a faith-based women's leadership and professional development organization. And we are one of very, very, very few women-led, women-governed nonprofit organization that supports women in leadership in Washington County. And as we were developing the organization, we really did a landscape analysis looking out across the nation to see if there were any other comparators, any other businesses or nonprofits that were doing what we were doing, and we found very few. So we're this really unique, innovative, faith-based nonprofit based in Hagerstown, Maryland, but on the national stage, we're one of very few organizations doing what we're doing, how we're doing it. Um, and so we offer faith-based training, and we do that in three ways on campus in partnership with the local community college, Hagerstown Community College. And we do our classes through their continuing education division. So this is not the undergrad side, this is the graduate side. And we offer classes once per month. Each month, it's a different topic covering everything from ethical decision making, financial stewardship, conflict resolution, leading in multi-generational workplaces, salary negotiation. And we help teach these skills, but it's from, as I said, a biblical perspective. Um, and in addition to that, we go out in the community and we offer on-site training that's customized to nonprofits and businesses. So we work with their HR staff and their CEOs, and we design this really customized training for their team. And we have some online resources, and this year we're working with a local vendor to create online courses as well. So we have these three ways of doing the same thing, which is just teaching women about faith-based leadership development. We're a young organization. We're coming up on our second year anniversary next month in October. So as you can imagine, starting something new that is not widely known, and there aren't a lot of examples of it out there, and launching it in a small semi-rural community and it's women-led, there have been complications. There have been issues with us getting traction, people understanding what we're doing and why we're doing it, and even people challenging who is leading it. And it's been interesting to see how that plays out in terms of how we're still able to serve the women in the community. But we have endured, we've persevered, and as I said, we're coming up on our second year, and we're excited to see what's to come.
Well, congratulations. Getting
Thank
anything
you.
off the ground is no easy task,
Yeah.
but sticking with it, especially in some of those uncontrollable moments and
Hmm.
uncertainty, takes gutsy. So I
Yeah.
want to I want to applaud you for that. What have you found that has kind of rocked your groundedness of leadership?
Mhm.
Because I gotta say, like, your program sounds really well put together. You were brought up in a leadership role. Like, you're solid and grounded, but I think it's a great testament to show that, like, even the smartest, bravest women still get kind of rocked off their center.
Hmm.
What has done that to you recently?
Yeah, and I just want to underscore that because I want to normalize that it's okay.
Yeah.
It's okay if you start out one way and then make a transition and are kind of forced into a position where you have to redefine it for yourself. And I want to normalize that for a lot of women because sometimes we think success is a upwards and to the right, it's just a straight line. You just go from strength to strength, and that's not always true. And sometimes it's more of a there's peaks and there's valleys, and there's peaks and there's valleys. But it's okay to go through that process and go through those fluctuations and to feel your feelings and to sometimes feel a little bit shaken, but knowing that you have that grit and you have that tenacity to weather it and to continue forward. It's okay to struggle sometimes. It's okay to lack confidence, but it's not okay to let that overpower you. And it's not okay to allow that to um, cancel your dreams. And it's not an excuse for you to stop pursuing your dreams. It's something that we sometimes experience, but it's not a stopping point. It's a point for us to, really be grounded in our values, in our beliefs, for some people, their faith, to have great community around you to support you as you move through those valleys, as you move through those challenges. And so to answer your question, I think for me, what has really rocked it is the fact that um, doing a women-led faith-based organization that kind of breaks the mold in terms of what a women's led, I'll call it a ministry for folks who are more faith oriented, what a women's ministry could look like. We're very non-traditional in terms of how we're doing it. Typical women's ministries that are traditional are sometimes rooted inside of the church. There's uh, programming that you would expect from that type of setting that are more focused around, Bible studies and kind of women's luncheons, women's picnics, breakfast, that type of thing. And so we're really breaking the mold in terms of what that looks like because we're not in a church. We're a community-based organization. We're non-denominational, but we're still very strong in our faith and beliefs. And we're talking to women as professionals. We're speaking to their courage, to their purpose. We're speaking to the skills and talents that they have been given and how they can use that to benefit their families and communities. And in our training, we really do challenge them. We challenge them to move outside of their comfort zone and to push forward into what they believe is their next step for them, how they can continue growing personally and professionally. And so that is different than what you would see in a church setting. And to be led by, someone like me who's, relatively young and a woman leading this organization in this setting, it is a bit of a disruptor. It's a disruptor to that tradition. And so the feedback that I have been receiving has not always been positive. I have, gone through some not nice things in terms of how people receive me, how they receive the mission of the organization as a nonprofit, challenging even that it's a nonprofit. There's just been a lot of very entrenched thinking about what is appropriate for a women's faith-based organization or women's ministry to do. And we're definitely disrupting that. So, of course, as you can expect, there are some people who it's going to take a little bit longer for them to really become accustomed to what we're doing and how we're doing it. So that has really shaken my identity as a leader because I don't think I've been challenged in that way before.
Yeah. Anytime you're disrupting an industry, anytime that you go off the beaten path, you do something new, you innovate, you're gonna get pushback.
Hmm.
I don't care what industry you're in. I don't care what the goal is. Like you're gonna get pushback because people don't love change.
Right.
I know very few people that are like, oh, I can't wait for everything to change, or I can't wait for to have to learn all of this all
All
over again
over.
in a new way. Like it's just not a fan favorite. But that's where innovation lies.
Mhm.
Is
Absolutely.
through people like you is disrupting something that once was. Just because it's worked one way doesn't mean it always will. Doesn't mean that
Absolutely.
there aren't alternative ways. And that's part of being a leader,
Hmm.
right? Is seeing a new path, creating a new path, guiding people, like sharing the message, educating people. Like that's part of leadership, is really
Hmm.
being willing to stand in the front and say, hey, I figured out a few things. What if we did this together? Let's forge ahead. And that's where some really beautiful stuff can come into play. But to come back around to this idea of like even owning that you're a leader in the first place. I mean, you've really embodied that, but so many women are challenged by that, by even like saying, yes, I am a leader, and being willing to own that and have a little bit of that spotlight on you. And it's not, I don't want that to come across as a leader is the only in the spotlight, but
Hmm.
you often end up in one. All eyes typically are turning to you, especially when there's uncertainty or there's change or there's questions. That's what I mean by that.
Yeah.
So, why do you think that so many women, like especially in rooms or boardrooms or offices or in homes or in communities, when someone's saying, "Oh, you're the leader of the group," and they're like, "No, no, 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 that's not me," right? And they're looking around to oh, that person does more than me,
Yeah.
or that person's older than me, so go to them, or they have more experience over there, so shoo, go over there to them, over to them. Why are women so uncomfortable even owning the fact that they are the leader?
That's an amazing question. And it's a phenomenon that, I didn't realize until we really started talking to a lot more women when we were designing our training. So our training was designed in community with women through interviews, speaking with HR managers, and women leaders in the community to ask them what they would need as we developed our training. And what arose from those conversations were a lot of women did exactly that. They said, well, I am not a leader, but so and so is. I am not a leader, but someone with a higher pay grade in the room is, or someone who is a different gender is, or someone who has a higher title is the leader in the room, kind of deferring the ownership of responsibility to someone else instead of taking that accountability and authority for themselves. So that's a phenomenon that I was a little bit surprised about. As I said, growing up, it was something that was kind of instilled in me, but recognizing people come to leadership from different stages and places in life. And so someone who maybe was not aspiring to be a leader just through their hard work, their intellect, and just perfect timing, they ended up being in a leadership role. And in that circumstance, it's kind of jarring. It's kind of like, okay, well, I didn't plan to be here, but here I am. But to really fully answer that question, when it comes to women struggling with embracing the identity of a leader, we can go all the way back to how young girls are kind of socialized, even as teenagers. Are they given the confidence and the opportunities to step into leadership roles? Are they spoken to in a way that helps them to build that identity in of themselves? Or are they only spoken to in a way that pigeonholes them and puts them in a certain lane? For women to be stepping into leadership, we have to kind of think about how we're helping young girls to develop that identity so that as they grow and then move into a professional career, it feels more natural and it doesn't feel as foreign because it's something that has been nurtured in them from a formative stage in their life, which is adolescence. But what we've seen just looking at some of the research, is that through cultural conditioning and through a lot of maybe lack of mentorship and lack of role models, strong female role models in certain industries that are more male dominated, or experiencing competitiveness between women, or just not being spoken to, as I said, in a way that endears that sense of leadership to them, it places them in a position when, by the time that they are in college or in their careers, that voice inside of their head has already developed saying, am I truly a leader? Can I truly do it? Is this really for me? Who will listen to me? Maybe I don't know enough. Maybe I need to learn more. And then that voice of self-doubt can just fester and grow over time unless we catch it and help women create a mindset and a community around them that supports this identity of being a leader. And so I think as women are able to kind of formulate this identity for themselves, it's so, so important for us to be able to articulate what some of the challenges are for them to fully identify as leaders, um, and then work on creating actionable solutions uh, and strategies for them to overcome it.
Have you found, are there common challenges that you see amongst women? Could we go through those?
Yeah, absolutely. And as I talk about some of these challenges, I want to say that it if you're listening and you hear something and you're like, huh, that might be me, this is not an indictment of your capacity or your skills. I hope that in mentioning some of these challenges, it truly is an invitation for women to lean in to the conversation as opposed to leaning out and feeling, a little bit criticized or anything like that. I really hope it's an invitation to recognize that many women struggle with these challenges, but the power comes in naming them, and then doing the work that we need to do to dismantle whatever internal or environmental factors that are making us feel like we are not leaders. So some of the challenges that women struggle with, of course, as we've heard, is perfectionism. And I can certainly raise my hand and say I struggle with that, because there is a lot of pressure to do things well and to do things right. And when you're in a space, when you're one of few women leading in a certain role, or for my example, for Cornerstone, as we're leading this organization that is one of very few, all eyes are on us in terms of how we're doing it and the outcomes we're seeing. And so I do sometimes feel this pressure of having to do things right and having to get it right the first time, which is, if, as you can imagine, extremely stressful. That's a
A
lot of
little bit.
pressure.
It comes with its own weight.
Yes, for sure. And it's not really realistic. No one is perfect. And as we're doing the work that we're doing, whether you're working in a trade industry or in a corporate environment, or if you're leading in your household, it's impossible to get things right all the time. And there should be some space for us to learn and grow and make mistakes. So this idea of perfectionism, it's more of something that truly does cage us in instead of allowing us to expand and to kind of be a little bit messy sometimes and figure it out as we go, recognizing that we're growing into the leader that we're meant to be. So kind of acknowledging perfectionism, but not allowing it to define us and limit us. As I said before, there might be gaps in representation if there aren't a lot of women working in the space that you're in. If you're working in a trade or working in a warehouse or working in a shift job, or you're leading in a STEM field, there isn't a lot of representation there. So the culture of the workplace might be a little bit more structured around the majority group in that industry. And sometimes within that structure, it's hard to find representation. It's hard to feel comfortable. So it's so, so important to have representation in terms of all of the industries where women are called to lead and are called to show up. And then, as I said, there could be competition. I think there's more than enough room for everyone. But I also recognize that as we are trying to pursue our goals and our career and our purpose, sometimes that competitiveness creeps in. sometimes we're either the victim of it or unfortunately the perpetrator. And so how can we kind of dismantle this mindset, this scarcity mindset that if you get it, I can't have it.
Mm.
Or if you are succeeding, that somehow looks bad for me. Or if you're somehow on a platform, that means that I won't get a chance and no one will hear my voice, And it really does come from this insecurity and the scarcity mindset. So how can we instead shift, recognize and celebrate other women who are doing incredible things, come alongside them, support them, champion them, advocate for them, say their names publicly so more people can get to know them, and break down this idea, especially amongst women, that we have to compete against each other, which is certainly not true.
You have built a life that works, but maybe not one that fits. Listen, you've probably outgrown old strategies, old roles, even the versions of success that used to excite you. You're probably feeling motivated to get going, but feel overwhelmed about where to even begin. And I can most certainly guarantee that you are tired of circling around this same decision. You're ready to do it. Auralign is the space where you make that move. It gives you the structure and the soul, real-time coaching, super clear direction, and the accountability to rebuild or create your next chapter from truth, from alignment, from excitement, not the pressure you're used to. Your business and your life really truly can reflect the things that you want when you're willing to go for it. Learn more about Auralign or take that first step and sign up today at lauraora.com/mastermind. That's a big one. That's a big one.
It
And it's so easy to compare,
is.
especially when we have access to everybody's lives in our pockets.
Yes. Yes.
A big shift that I've had to make over the years is, just because someone else is winning doesn't mean that I'm losing.
Mm-hmm.
And I've really shoved it into high gear, especially going full time as a speaker, that if someone else is winning, especially in the world of speaking, they're just simply modeling to me what's possible.
Yes.
They're showing me that this is happening, right? I think sometimes, especially when you're carving a new path or you're doing something unknown, if you don't see you mentioned modeling earlier, if you don't see it anywhere else, it's like, is this really true?
Mm-hmm.
Can this actually happen? When is this going to happen?
Mm-hmm.
But I have found that when I see other women just like killing it in the speaking
Mm-hmm.
world or in business or anything else, I'm just like, oh, you're reflecting back to me that it's one, possible, and two, that it's important to me.
Mm.
If it gets a little rise out of you, if it gets you going a little bit, like there's something in that for you, but your own version of it on
Yes.
your own timeline. So I just want to nudge that in there because that's been very helpful. It's like, just because you're killing it doesn't mean that my life is falling apart. It just means that, like, hey, you're showing me what's possible, and I just got a few more steps to take, and that's okay.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. It's possible, and it's also it's achievable. It's something that if you put the right time and effort into it, that could be it could be your goal. It could be one of your accomplishments, but it's not the ceiling of what's accomplishable either.
Yeah.
And so just looking at other women and seeing what they have accomplished, it's certainly for me an encouraging thing. But then it also makes me think, okay, they were able to accomplish this. What's the next step? And how
Yeah.
can I kind of uh, be a change maker and to be a leader in that space and to kind of push it into the next step? But then, of course, as I said, always recognizing them and saying their names publicly. I think that's also another great way to break down that sense of competitiveness when we're able to have at least two or three other women that we can name publicly and say, this person is doing it, this person is doing it, this person is doing it. And if you don't know these people's names, go research them and find them, find out what they're doing and follow them. And being open-handed with any type of platform or notoriety really does help us break down that sense of competition inside of ourselves.
Yeah, that's a great tip. Calling each other out in the best of ways.
Mm-hmm.
I'm also kind of curious in your research and just in the groups that you've worked with. I have to wonder if women are hesitant to own themselves as a leader because they're already carrying so many other responsibilities that they don't
Mm.
want one more. Thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think that so I agree, but it's a little bit of a shift. So women are, especially in today's age, carrying a lot of responsibilities. We're carrying a lot of titles, in our families, in our communities, in our workplaces, if we have, extracurricular hobbies that we do, we're always carrying a lot of different roles. And with that comes a lot of expectations on us as well. But I think when it comes to the role of a leader, it's not adding another role to their already full basket. I think what it is just a little mindset shift that it's not adding something to what you're already doing. It's helping you to frame how you approach what it is that you're doing.
Hmm.
So it's as you are, let's say you're working in a community organization and you're serving on a board of directors, for example. Instead of thinking, oh, now I also have to be a leader in this space, being a leader is not necessarily, as I said, it's not always a title or role. It's just kind of how you approach things. When you are sitting on that board of directors, are you using your voice? Are you speaking up? Are you perceiving yourself as someone who's bringing important life experience, academic experience, and resources to the table that you want to share? And how are you stewarding all of those resources and experiences in a way that benefits everyone around you? And that is being a leader. That's appropriately stewarding all of the things that you bring to the table, standing in that authority, and leading from that role, leading from that mindset. So it's not necessarily adding more to your plate to say, in all of these roles that you're doing, let's go ahead and add on the fact that you're also a leader. It's more of with all of the amazing things that you're doing in life, you have so many touch points with so many different people. So many people have the opportunity to interact with you. At the same time, how are you stewarding that opportunity so that you truly are pouring into people, so that you're using your life experience, all of the gifts and talents you have to help them? And as you're doing that, it's just something that flows in you and through you to others around you, not necessarily something that you have to add on top of all of the things that you're already doing.
I love that. It's what that sounds like to me is like embodiment of like you are a leader.
Mhm.
You're just in a different room.
Yes,
And so it's not one more thing, but it's really just using those skills and abilities in the place and time and setting that you're in.
yes.
Love that. So that kind of turns the page here then. And how do we start to really embody it?
Mhm.
What are the solutions to those challenges? Because like friends, you're in these rooms, you're doing the thing. Everyone's looking at you as the leader. How do we overcome those things like perfectionism and not having it modeled to us? How do we overcome some of those things and really, really own it for our own confidence?
Yeah. And I also want to hold space for some of the ladies out there who are listening and they're thinking, well, that's not really me. I know that I'm a leader. I show up fully for everything that I do from this position and understanding that I'm a leader. I don't really struggle with perfectionism. I don't really struggle with those things. I have a balance in my life. And there are some women who are listening that are like, you know, I don't really relate. And so I want to hold space for those women as well because they also exist within the environment that we're in our society. There are some women who are fully embodied, fully stepping into that leadership role, and you can see it and you can feel
Yeah.
it, and it's so inspiring and empowering. And so I want to hold space for them as well and recognize that we are all coming to this conversation from a different perspective. So neither one is more valid than the other. If you're struggling with some of these things, it's okay. And if you're not, that's okay too. There's space for all of us to really learn from each other and grow together. And it's okay if you're kind of in a different place than another woman who you come into contact with. That's perfectly okay. So to answer your question, first I want to kind of come back to, what is the cost of this? Why is this important? Sure, maybe if I'm struggling with some of these challenges with my self-identification as a leader, maybe this is just something that impacts me and that's fine. And so I want to challenge that. And I want to show that there is a broader impact when we don't step into our full identity as a leader. There are impacts to us individually, there's a personal cost to it. There's also a team and organizational cost if we are in a position to lead other people in a team. If there is an organization that is relying on our leadership, what happens when we don't step into that role? The communities we live in, what's the ripple effect when women don't step into that leadership role? And then also the generational impact as well. And so it might seem like something that's just a small kernel of a challenge we're dealing with in our own lives. But I think what can sometimes go missed is the compounding effects of women not stepping into these leadership roles. And it's important for them to do it. So, like, the individual cost is that if you're not stepping into that role of a leader, you're at a much higher likelihood for frustration and for lack of self-esteem and even burnout because you're not appropriately stepping into your role, what you should be doing and how you should be showing up. And instead of having that identity, it's hard to lead others when people can see that you're not fully embodying that leadership role in and of yourself. So that individual cost can come with that lack of work-life balance. It can come and show up as a personal, mental struggles, anxiety, sometimes even depression, overfunctioning, because we're working outside of alignment with who we are. We're called to lead and we're in a leadership role, but we don't have that image of ourselves, so there's misalignment. And when there's misalignment, there's huge opportunity for friction and tension and anxiety and all these other negative influences. When you're leading an organization and you're sitting at the table and you're not fulfilling your role as a leader, that means that people who are relying on you for their jobs, people who are reliant on you for setting the vision and the direction of the organization, they feel insecure because they're looking at the leader of the organization and they could tell that you're not fully embodying what you're supposed to be doing. And especially when there's a budget involved, especially if you're in an organization that has a high touch with the community, vulnerable people in the community. For example, if you're in healthcare, or if you are working in social services, or working with another vulnerable population, it's so important for women to step into that leadership role because the negative effect of not fulfilling your role as a leader can truly impact people's health and their livelihood. So it's so, so very important for women to embody and understand that they are leaders. The economic and social impact, I'll bring in just a reference here. There was a study done by McKinsey, and McKinsey has put out a lot of research on the gender pay gap and women in the workforce, and they have, worked with Lean In with Sheryl Sandberg. And so they do a lot of research in this space. And what they found was that closing the gender gap could add $12 trillion to the global GDP. But what that means locally is that when we don't have communities where women are stepping into leadership roles, they're owning their identities as leaders. That means that what the demographics of the community looks like in terms of who is in the workforce, who is leading in the workforce, who is making financial decisions for the household, how money is spent and distributed throughout that community. There truly is a negative impact when women are not stepping fully in that leadership role. When there is some type of gap between not only how we identify as ourselves, but how we show up as leaders in our community. And kind of going to the generational aspect, at the top of the podcast, I kind of talked about in my family, there were examples that I could pull from. I can think about my grandmother on my mom's side. I can think about an aunt on my dad's side. I can think about my mom, and so there's very tangible examples for me in terms of what leadership can look like. But without women stepping into that full embodiment and owning their identities as leaders, that has a ripple effect in your family. What does your daughter see modeled for them? What do your nieces see modeled for them? And a lot of times our greatest influences come from our family unit. So it's so important to show that example in our own families, because we truly are, as women, setting the tone and setting the examples and making so many important decisions for our families. And it's so inspiring to have strong women leaders in our families to be able to set that example. It has so many intangible benefits. And, just for me, and I can speak just from my own personal story, how much I am absolutely blessed and grateful to have grown up in an environment where that was modeled. And if, you grew up in an environment where it was not modeled, where there was brokenness in the family, or there were lack of healthy examples, I just want to encourage you and let you know that you're not alone. And that does not mean that you still cannot stand confidently as a leader if it was not modeled for you in your own family of origin. You can rewrite your own story. You can make decisions to redirect your own life path. And so there's always an opportunity to change and grow as long as you're willing to do it, even if it was not modeled for you in your own family unit.
As one that was not that did not have a model of this, I can speak to that.
Mm-hmm.
We keep coming back to this pioneer movement, this forging ahead, this creating a new path kind of theme throughout this episode. And if you were not shown what it was to be a leader, or to be a woman, to use your voice, or to speak up for yourself or others, it can feel really daunting.
Mm-hmm.
It can feel scary. It can feel, it really kind of comes at your safety and security, because now you're putting yourself out there. Vulnerability, again, another thing people just don't love. However, it's seeing it within yourself. It's really knowing and trusting yourself,
Mm-hmm.
and giving yourself permission that you don't need, but maybe need to give yourself, to do or say or to try some of these things, right? To really stand up and create that path. I did not have a role model as a female leader growing up, but guess what? My sister and my nieces do.
Exactly.
And that's exactly what you're talking about, is like my nieces see me and my sister going after our dreams. They see us speaking up when something's not right. They see us voicing when we want something. They hear and embody it. And so those next generations, it's just going to be normal to them. So if you're a cycle breaker like me, I hear you and I see you. And no, I know it's really hard work, but man, those women, those girls around you, the women you don't even know that are watching, it has a profound impact. And
Yes.
I'm just so glad that you brought this up, because I think that we often get tunnel vision, and it's like right in the moment of leadership or not, speaking up or don't, making the financial decision or pulling it back. We just think about it in the moment. And I love how you brought out like the bird's eye view, big picture of the snowball of this, because
Yeah.
women in leadership are necessary. Like, we need you. We
Mm-hmm.
need your movement. We need your decision making. We need your guidance in leadership in so many different aspects, because it has a profound impact on everything.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Absolutely. It has such a profound impact. And the lack of it also has a profound impact.
Mm-hmm.
And I love that you said your nieces and, all the future generations that come after you can now name you as someone who has been that cycle breaker. I think for me, one of the things that has been extremely helpful in this season of life, where I am kind of, my identity in that sense was a little bit shaken, community was extremely important for me. So as we kind of transition into talking about some of the potential solutions, I'll just start it off by saying I have been so incredibly blessed, and I'm so grateful for the strong mentors that have come alongside and have been so steadfast and supportive throughout this process. Many of those people who I did not know before starting this organization. And one of the beautiful things I think is about when you break a cycle, the world, the universe kind of adapts to this new version of you to support it. And it might be challenging. I'm not saying it's easy, but when you make a decision, it is so powerful. When you make a decision and you start taking action on it, it's so powerful that then your environment starts to collude in your favor, I believe.
Oh, absolutely. I'm nodding like vigorously over here.
Yes. So when I made this decision to go off and start this organization, there's this whole village of people that I had not met, I did not know, that kind of came alongside us and supported us. On our board, all of our board members were people who I met after making the decision to start this organization. My mentors were people who I met after making the decision. All of the students, of course, most of them, I won't say all, were people who I met after making the decision. So, like, it was really scary stepping into that leadership role to lead a new organization. But then what ended up happening was instead of my world shrinking and becoming scary, it became so much more expansive. I have met so many more people, and I know I'll continue to meet more people. I'll continue to learn more things and to go to new places and to visit different people in their workplaces and to have coffee with them and to, because our work is faith oriented, going to different new churches. And it has truly opened up this whole new world for me where it feels like an adventure, but I haven't left my hometown, if that
Mm,
makes sense.
yeah.
Like my world has just tripled in terms of the people and resources and opportunities. And so I want to encourage women who are listening who might be thinking that stepping into any kind of leadership role is scary or daunting. I want to validate that. Yeah, it can be scary. Yeah, that's okay. But what happens on the other side of that fear is so many new opportunities, so many new wonderful people to meet, and so many ways to grow and to be an example for other people, other generations coming up behind you. So don't let that fear and hesitation hold you back because it is really just something you have to move through instead of allowing it to be something that dominates you and makes you stop. So just keep moving through it. Own your title, your identity as a leader, because there's so many things on the opposite side of that. So just to give you all some practical strategies to be able to actualize this in your life. And I want to challenge your audience as we talk through this. I want to challenge your audience to do at least one of these things in the next week. In the next 7 days, try to do at least one of these things and incorporate it into your life. Doesn't have to be this big, amazing step. You run a marathon by first putting on your sneakers. So just try to take one next best step towards owning your identity as a leader.
Love
And
it.
so one thing that you can do is start calling yourself a leader. And that goes back to some research that we were able to identify. It's called leadership identity development. And this amazing researcher, right now she's at the University of Maryland. Her name is Susan Comives. I hope I'm not mispronouncing her last name. But she led this research team to create a theory called leadership identity development. And it's all about being a lifelong dynamic process of identifying ourselves as leaders, integrating those values and beliefs and actions into our lives, and then guiding others so that they can then influence their environment. So, first of all, that leadership identity development is so important. And that begins with just calling yourself a leader. As you are meeting new people, say, of course, as you're introducing yourself to new people, try to incorporate that word leader somewhere in your introduction. As you are writing an email, try to incorporate that word as you're describing yourself. If you journal or if you have a close group of friends, try to incorporate those words somewhere into your journaling practice or into your conversation with your friends so that you're starting to take on that identity as a leader because it's something that you first call yourself before someone else calls you it. So then when you are first calling yourself that, when you are first standing in that identity, it's something that you own and not something that other people give to you. And because it's something other people give to you, you're then relying on them to validate it and
Mm.
putting yourself in a position where they could take it away if they stop calling you a leader. But if you first call yourself that, if you first own your identity as a leader, it is something that belongs to you and it's a gift that you're giving to yourself. And then you allow people around you to come alongside you and to also echo that you are a leader. But it's so important for you to first have that within yourself. So another great thing that I have found is just surrounding yourself, as I said, with mentors or peers who can affirm that identity for you. For me, mentors were essential. My mentors are rock solid. They are folks who I have frequent meetings with that are scheduled. We respect each other's time, and we are committed to each other. I'm committed to my mentor as a mentee, and my mentor is committed to me as a mentor. And I say that because sometimes we come in and out of these mentorship relationships kind of loosey-goosey, and we don't realize the power that a mentor can truly have in our lives if we allow them to do that for us and if they want to stand in that space with us. And so having a mentor for me has really modeled what stable community and stable support feels like. These are mentors who listen to me, give me guidance, advice. We grow in relationships so they know my personality, my characteristics, my values, my tics, my quirks, and they can call me out on it. Sometimes they have corrected me and I'm like, all right, I'll take that correction. Okay, all right, I'll take the correction. But it's so important to have people you trust serve in that role. A mentor is different from a friend. A mentor is different from a spouse. A mentor is different from a boss or a supervisor. A mentor is its own discrete role with a discrete purpose in your life. And for me, my mentor stands outside of these other roles that I also have in my life, friends and um, family and siblings. My mentor is very different. My tone in my conversations with my mentor is different. My vulnerability with my mentor is different. The degree that they can speak into and influence my life is different. And so having that mentor is so important because this person who has agreed to come alongside you and support you can then help you with that leadership identity development. Another strategy that you can use is that confidence grows when competence grows. So I truly believe in being a lifelong learner. So whether that is podcasts like this amazing podcast that you're listening to right now, or a Bible study group, or a class at a community college, or a class you're taking towards a degree, or you know, a book or anything that helps you to be able to learn new ideas and to be able to grow intellectually and to see the world differently, I think is an opportunity for you to engage in being a lifelong learner. And right now, there's so many opportunities for us to be able to learn, whether that's digitally or in person. So take advantage of at least one opportunity that you can become a lifelong learner. So that's one other thing that you can do. And this last aspect, if you are someone who is kind of more faith inclined, there's so much value and so much purpose and power that comes from being in a faith informed group, whether that's a church or a women's group or a Bible study group or just a group that is in alignment with your beliefs and your values. And that can help you understand your identity as a leader from a more, if that's something you're inclined to, a more biblical perspective. And so just to run that down again, first start calling yourself as a leader, surround yourself with mentors that are really going to encourage you and support you. Confidence grows where competence grows. So being a lifelong learner, pick up a new book, a new podcast, take a class, watch a documentary, something that's going to help you learn and grow and develop that identity. And lastly, if you're faith inclined, try to find a community that you can engage with that can help you support that. So I'm just challenging your audience, try to do one of those things, one thing that really stuck out to you that says, hey, I feel like I can do that one thing this week. I feel like I could listen to a new podcast. Like I could do that. Or there's this group I've been meaning to go to. Let me just put it on my calendar to go and then actually show up. um,
Yes.
so try to do one of those things to help you to be able to really own your identity as a leader.
I love how bite size and practical those are. Like
Mm.
it's very simple. We often want to know, like, okay, how do I be confident? Friend, you gotta do the thing.
Mhm.
You gotta take the action. You gotta put yourself in the situation. That whole claiming yourself as a leader, quick short story. I waned back and forth about being a speaker forever. Like, oh, it's something that I'm going to do. I will become a speaker. And then one day I just had this epiphany when I was like, I'm already a speaker. Like, I'm already talking to groups. I'm already talking on stages. I'm already hosting events. I'm already hosting a podcast. Laura, you're a speaker. Like, there is not a becoming. You just are.
Are, yeah,
And I was shaking my head so strongly when you were talking about like the universe rewards people that take action.
yeah,
Answers come, opportunities show up when you take that action. And when
yeah.
I started claiming myself as a speaker, guess what? Speaker opportunities
They
started
started
presenting
coming. Yes.
themselves. The right people showed up in my world. I'm connecting with the right people on LinkedIn, right? Like just all of these right things start happening
Yeah.
because you took that gutsy move.
Yeah.
You took the bold action. You claimed something about yourself. So I just want to share for anybody that might be on the fence. Does that actually work? It does.
Mhm.
It really does. And it actually can be that simple. We want it to be so much more complicated than what it really is.
Yeah.
It really is that simple. So these are practical, tangible, amazing tips, Shadae. Like I just love what you're doing. I love you just have such a grounded presence and you're so rooted in your own faith and also the methodology that you've created that it just radiates. So your leadership is much needed, not just in your local community, but dare I say nation and worldwide for sure.
Oh, well, thank you so much. Thank
You're
you so much.
welcome.
I definitely appreciate that, and I'll accept that. I'll claim that. Thank you.
Excellent. You got it. Where is the best place that people can find and connect with you?
Yeah, so the best place to really learn about what we're doing is on our main website. And so that's www.cornerstoneforwomenleaders.com. And so that's the best place to really start engaging with us. In terms of reaching out to me, you can find me on Facebook and Instagram and LinkedIn, just at Shadae Paul. I think that's my handle for all of them. But I love meeting new people. And so if you want to reach out, shoot me an email, shoot me a direct message, and I would love to schedule time just to talk and connect. But it's been an absolute pleasure speaking with you today and talking to your audience. And I just want to thank you again for creating the space for women.
Of course. Right back at you, my friend. I got to know, Shadae, what does gutsy mean to you, my friend?
Ooh, for me, gutsy means being fearless. Gutsy means acknowledging that fear, staring it in the face, and doing it anyways. And so being gutsy means just being fearless in what you do, fearless about pursuing your goals, and fearless about showing up for yourself and others.
You know something, today's conversation was just such a deep and profound reminder of how far back this conditioning really goes. And no wonder it feels odd or sticky or uncomfortable. But I just want to remind you that the way that we change those cultural and social norms is by changing it, by leaning in, by getting uncomfortable, by showing the women around us and coming up behind us what is possible. You're a cycle breaker for a reason, my friend. You're listening to the Gutsy Podcast for a reason. Your leadership and ownership in your voice creates a ripple effect of incredibleness. And I don't even know if that's a legit word or not, but it is here today. So just want to close out here and remind you that when you feel that hesitation, when you feel that pullback, friend, that is your invitation to lean in. Make sure you come say hi. I'm on all the social platforms. I love to hear what really resonated with you, what you took from today's episode. So come find me and connect and follow. I am at that Laura Aura across the board. And as always, until I see you next time, stay gutsy.